But first, one of the oldest tricks in the book is to try and shape the reception of a budget by judicious leaks beforehand. Now, for this to work, though, there's got to be a clear message. And the Albanese government's pre-budget leaks are anything but clear. To the markets, the government's saying that it'll be a budget of restraint that will complement the work of the Reserve Bank to rein back inflation. But to voters, though, the message is cost of living relief, because that's clearly the number one issue for the Australian people. Even though every government dollar they spend is a dollar from your pocket, either taken as taxes today or taxes tomorrow, when the debt, which is what we've borrowed as a country, has to be repaid. Now, it might have been different when Paul Keating was Treasurer and Peter Walsh was his Finance Minister, but Labor's basic approach is to spend your money to try and buy back your vote. And because the big spending's in Labor's DNA, this budget won't deliver cost of living relief via less spending that gets interest rates down. Instead, it'll be more spending to subsidise power bills and to subsidise rents, if all the leaks from the weekend are to be believed. Today's latest leak was supposed to prove that more spending was not inflationary. That's because, says Labor, subsidising power bills and rents reduces prices, it doesn't raise them. And because the Reserve Bank didn't know about Labor's cunning plan, its inflation forecasts are higher than the government's. Now, that's not good. We've got the RBA tipping that inflation will be at 3.8% by Christmas and 3.2% by the middle of next year. The Treasury Department, which of course has the Treasurer as its boss, well, it thinks inflation will in fact be a lot lower, at just 2.75% for the whole of the current financial year. That's a big difference. It's an alarming difference between our central bank and our central economic department. One, the bank that isn't second-guessed by politicians, and the other, Treasury, which of course is. Now, basic economics tells you that government subsidies increase total spending because they free up spending that would otherwise go on the subsidised items. That's why the RBA's forecasts are more credible than the government's. And that's why tomorrow night's spending spree will make inflation worse, not better, and keep interest rates higher for longer. Mind you, higher interest rates make homes less affordable, and that drives one of Labor's other key objectives, namely to turn us into a nation of renters rather than owners, because renters are more likely to be habitual Labor voters. With power bills up nearly 40% under this Labor government and mortgage repayments almost doubling, with real wages falling, this is a government plainly in a lot of political trouble. Add in the foreign criminals debacle and the upsurge of people smuggling, with the latest yet another boat of asylum seekers reported today, and the Albanese government is looking weak in Labor's traditional areas of weakness: economic management and national security. Polling on the weekend had the PM's favourability rating -8 compared to +4 for opposition leader Peter Dutton. As well, Anthony Albanese's better PM lead has now shrunk to just 4 points. Throw in Labor's chronic inability to grasp that it's a productive economy, not the government that creates wealth, and this budget's going to make the government's problems a whole lot worse. It's going to damage the economy, not strengthen it. Last week, for instance, the government decreed that the live sheep trade would end in 4 years' time. On top of Labor's measures to stop logging and close down the forestry industry, this is yet another productive industry that Labor will end in order to appease the Green Left. And contrary to Green Left prejudice, expanding the so-called care economy is not going to make our country richer either. More NDIS workers, more nurses, more childcare staff, even more teachers, as worthy as they all might be, they're all subsidised by taxpayers, and fine when the economy's tracking well, but it's a massive increase to our debt burden when it's not. But if Labor wants more unionised workers, then that's where they'll go. Sadly, the worse the economy gets, the more likely it is that Labor will be forced into minority government at the next election. And that would mean even more power to the Greens, who want to immediately close down our two biggest export industries, coal and gas, despite the hundreds of billions that we'll see in the budget from these two exports tomorrow night. All of this makes Budget Week this week absolutely critical to Australia's future. Not just the politics of this current term of Parliament, but our nation's economic fundamentals and how we pay our way as a country.